always in a conversation. A lot of the times I'm even in two at the same time.
Oh yeah.
I'm reading a message on my phone, thinking of a reply, then replying to someone in real life, listening to that conversation, listening to my own conversation, listening to my phone.
You're always in a conversation with yourself.
Yeah, that too. Even if you're alone.
I'm always thinking. I even talk to myself.
But I don't consider it. And I conversate with myself. It's not just thoughts. I conversate.
You do it?
It's a conversation.
So a lot of the meaning is arising out of the making and the process of the doing, and it's open-ended. And the more I can keep that open, the more possibility that others can communicate with it. If I close it all down and make it, quote, perfect, so to speak, then it's more one way, because then I'm imposing my vision onto the audience.
What's important when engaging in conversation is knowing the other person is listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that
like
normally
actively listening instead of just like yeah, okay, whatever.
So yeah, exactly. So you can tell that they're internalizing what you're saying.
Yeah.
And sort of their output and their questions they respond to you with should clearly show that they're sort of reflecting on what you're saying.
It's a conversation. In other words, if I start to make something, I don't plan it all out and then just execute it. As the work, I use a process so that as the work develops, I have to kind of be in touch with whatever's going on there so that I can bring forth whatever's coming up in any given situation.
A new person you're speaking to can always do that will make you instantly feel comfortable talking to
There's lots of, I like laughter.
That's true.
I love laughter, because if you're just chatting, or a smile even, is just so reassuring.
But I think that's what makes it so amazing to have a deep conversation, because I find it never happens when you force it. You always just find it. It's very random, and sometimes you don't expect that night. I mean, you never expect that night to have the deep conversation. It just comes to you.
Sometimes conversation happens once, the uniqueness of them, and you're not gonna get back to that conversation you had that was so great. I don't know,
But also, sometimes you talk about other stuff and you remember a conversation that you had before, and it's a little bubbles and you don't remember the bubble.
Because I think it's a sort of intimacy you don't feel anywhere else. With physical touch, affection, anything. It's a good conversation. I mean, I had one last night in bed with someone, and he said to me, I've never felt this intimate, and we were not even touching. We were just going, touching minds, really saying thoughts you don't say out loud to anyone. You don't really, ever let out of your inner thoughts.
Yeah, I see. And I love it when it's people that you don't know. Sometimes I have my deepest conversation with people. It's, the second time we meet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you're ready to tell them, your deepest thoughts and, yeah.
But after that conversation, you can never go back to being strangers,
Yeah.
Most contemporary art takes this idea into account, and that the maker will produce a certain range of meanings, kind of like poetry and writing, that's not necessarily one meaning. It's open. There's an open-ended, a controlled but open-ended meaning. So the viewer's job, in a way, is to enter into that conversation
that were years ago,
with their own experience
it was
and the thing they're looking at.
So special that the person understood what I was saying, and no one was seeing it. That I remember exactly where we were, what was happening. I could almost tell which date it was if I looked back at the calendar.
Imagine we could frame every conversation and have it recorded, every conversation we have with everyone, every person. Okay.
It'll be a horrible world.
Okay, will you go back and reproduce it, or will it lose the uniqueness?
Listening back to those things is probably quite valuable, but in terms of my own life experience, I mean, I'm only thinking about that being valuable in terms of when someone dies. Oh, I would like to rehear my mom tell me that she loves me or something like that.
If you knew that everything you're saying is gonna be recorded and then other people is gonna be able to listen to it,
you wouldn't say half the things you say.
Exactly.
Or even more.
A lot of things we wouldn't say them. We would like more, I think. I mean,
Yeah, you wouldn't even dare to say like half. I feel like it would probably be so
say.
toxic for me because I would start obsessing over, oh, I said this to that person. A lot of things you don't want to remember, like when you're out.
Yeah,
on a night
maybe
out.
things that you said that you don't give them any importance, but then you listen to them and you start to be paranoid. Oh, shit, maybe here I did something wrong. Yeah, that could be as well.
I feel like it would, for the overwhelming majority, it would be a negative thing. And once again, except for like these nostalgic moments where it's like, oh, I mean, what do you remember from childhood? Very brief, like snapshot things. You can hardly like reproduce any of it, and like over time, your brain changes the way. There's no objective memory from your youth. In that way, even then, do you want the objective truth or do you want to have like the nice memory?
How do you feel after the conversation's done? Are you a person that cares?
I think conversations makes it's like free knowledge.
Yeah.
Because when you talk with somebody, right, and that someone either has your same opinion or not, you are always extracting another point of view. Like artists, it's a way to communicate, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Just like a conversation.
Like a conversation.
Also, art can give you some sort of knowledge.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. Change your perspective.
How, when you talk with someone.
Challenge the status quo.
But I feel like what's missing with art, painting or movie or music, you don't have the relationship you have with them is not the same as the one you have with people. Gives you the knowledge and their one side, but they're not gonna hear you in some sense.
It's like a one-way conversation.
Yeah.
I think good paintings and drawings actually are a two-way conversation. In other words, if the maker, the author of the work, understands that there's a certain area where meaning can be open instead of closed.
So sometimes it's not just your own idea and belief about the art, but it's also about the person behind it and what that person intends to communicate, in the same way that in any conversation, you or I are trying to, we have an intention to make you believe something.
At the same time, we're recording a conversation, so it's the most paradoxical thing. You can't go back to a conversation, but it will always be able to go back to this one.